I spent a good deal of time working for the state of Ohio, and I was always involved with disputes. So it was always all my work involved disputes between employees and employers for the most part. So more is all administrative, but you work closely with the parties. So I feel like I've always been in my whole career, I've been involved in some kind of disputes. I did have a private practice where I represented employees for a while in different aspects and focused on labor, but I did some personal injury work. I did some divorce work, a little bit of everything. And then I worked for really a law and consulting firm for labor relations. And then actually, before I did that, I was hired to be a mediator for the 10th District Court of Appeals in Ohio. And I did a bunch of mediations, and then I got involved in a study with the National Association for State Courts. We picked 200 cases that were randomly, similar issues, and 100 of them were mediated, the other half were not. And I was the mediator for the 100 cases that were mediated. And according to the statistical analysis, the mediation was successful. Then eventually I got to the point where I was kind of frustrated with having to adhere to somebody else's schedule. I wanted to be able to get in a business or a practice where I could control my own schedule more. And that's where the mediation and the arbitration, were great because I control the schedule. So typically they're disputes, most collective bargaining agreements, both private and I do a lot of private sector as well as public sector. And then I also do what they call interest arbitration, which involves parties that are negotiating collective bargaining agreements. I usually like to stay somewhat formal. I think the parties feel like, they're getting more of a fair shake, if you're, formal. I try to get the case, get both sides. I want to let both sides make their case, and often I'll get an objection. Well, this is irrelevant. But I said, well, I want the union a chance to make their case, and I'm not a juror. There's no jury here. I can sort this out. And yeah, you're probably right, Mr. Employer Attorney, that it may not be relevant or it may not be. But, let's get all that information out there. So I try to get all the information together. And I think probably because of all my experience, with the state of Ohio, I can relate to all kinds of, factory workers or coal miners or, school superintendents. Well, I do a lot of family stuff. I actually have 5 children. I have 9 grandchildren, and the oldest is 10. So I have a lot of young kids they like to do things with. I like to travel. Actually, my son and I did a trip to Norway and Sweden last year, which was nice. And my wife and I also, do more. We've done some European travel, but we did the national parks, and we did Hawaii a couple of years ago, and did a trip to New England last year. Another thing I did is I just recently purchased a home in Florida, and I get my own schedule. Well, anyway, I ended up going to work for the Tampa Bay Rays during spring training. So I work in guest services during spring training season, which is it's only about 5 or 6 weeks, but it's kind of a fun job. I always feel like the arbitration mediation is always so serious. And so this guest services, just dealing with people live there and have a good time, it's kind of a nice change of pace.